The night I almost died for a paycheck started with a gold-plated gate. I'm a DJ. Not famous, not rich. Just good enough to get hired for private parties. When a man with a smooth voice called and offered me $10,000 to play at a small celebration at a private mansion outside the city, I didn't ask too many questions. The address led me down a long, dark road lined with tall trees. At the end stood a huge mansion glowing with white lights. Marble stairs. Black SUVs parked in a neat row. Men in suits. Women in expensive dresses. Inside, everything screamed money. Crystal chandeliers. Gold trim on the walls. A grand piano no one was playing. The guests barely smiled. They didn't laugh much either. They just stood in small circles, whispering. Still, rich people can be strange. I set up my equipment. When I started the music, the mood shifted. They danced. They drank. They clapped when I switched tracks. For a moment, it felt normal. But something felt off. No one looked at their phones. No one took pictures. And every now and then, I noticed them glancing toward the massive staircase at the center of the room, like they were waiting. Around midnight, the music suddenly cut off. Not from my system, from the power. The room went dark. Then the chandeliers flickered back on, dimmer than before. The guests stopped dancing. They turned toward the staircase in perfect silence. Footsteps echoed from above. Slow, heavy. But when the figure appeared at the top of the stairs, my heart nearly stopped. It wasn't a man in a suit. It was a pale, bare body. No clothes. No shoes. Skin almost gray, stretched tight over bone. Too thick. Curved horns pushed out from the sides of his head. He had no expression, no shame, no humanity. And when he began to descend the stairs, I realized. His legs weren't touching the steps. They floated just above them. The crowd dropped to their knees. Every single one of them. They bowed their heads and whispered, "Welcome back, Master." My hands froze on the DJ controller. The horned figure reached the bottom. His eyes were cloudy and lifeless. His mouth hung slightly open, but he made no sound. His chest didn't rise or fall. He wasn't breathing. The guests began chanting softly. Not English. Not anything I recognized. The air grew cold. My breath showed in front of me. The master raised one long, thin arm. The room fell silent. He drifted forward, hovering inches above the marble floor. His feet never touched it. One of the men near me whispered, "Bow." I didn't move at first. Then he slowly turned his horned head toward me. Even from across the room, I felt the weight of his stare. "Bow." The man whispered again. My legs gave out. I lowered myself to my knees, my heart slamming against my ribs. From the corner of my eye, I saw the master float past guests, placing his icy hand on their heads. Every person he touched shook violently, like something unseen passed through them. Then he stopped in front of me. The room went dead silent. I could feel him there, cold, towering. I forced my forehead to the floor. A long pause. Then something sharp and freezing brushed the back of my neck. Not fingers, not skin. It felt like bone. I bit my tongue to keep from screaming. If I ran, I knew I wouldn't make it past the gate. After a few endless seconds, he drifted away. The chanting started again, louder now. I lifted my head just enough to peek. The master floated in the center of the room. The guests formed a circle around him. The lights flickered violently. The walls seemed to bend and breathe. And then, for one quick second, the illusion broke. The crystal chandeliers became rusted hooks. The marble floor turned into cracked cement. The gold walls shifted into rotten wooden boards. The guests' designer clothes flickered into dirty rags. I blinked. The mansion returned. But I knew the truth. This place wasn't real. The music system suddenly powered back on by itself. A slow, distorted version of my last song echoed through the speakers. The master turned his horned head toward me. He pointed. I didn't wait for instructions. I jumped up and forced a shaky smile. "Bathroom break," I muttered. No one answered. They just watched me, every head turning at the same time. But none of them stood. I walked calmly toward the hallway. The moment I turned the corner, I ran. The hallway stretched longer than before. The lights above buzzed and flickered. Behind me, I heard something. Not footsteps. A dragging, floating sound. Closer. I shoved open a side door and burst outside. Cold air hit me hard. But the mansion was gone. There were no SUVs. No fountain. No gold gate. I stood in a dark field surrounded by crooked tombstones. In front of me was a small, rotten wooden hut. The door I had just run through hung loosely on rusty hinges. A broken sign leaned near a rusted fence. Cemetery. My stomach twisted. Through the hut's cracked window, I could still see faint light flickering. And shadows. Figures kneeling. Chanting. One shadow was taller than the rest. With two horns. Floating. I didn't wait. I ran across the field, stumbling over uneven ground, past gravestones, until I reached the main road. When I looked back from a distance, there was no hut. Just silent tombstones under a weak streetlight. The next morning, I searched the address online. There was no mansion listed there. Only an old report about a small cult discovered years ago inside a hut in an abandoned cemetery. They believed they could bring their master back from the dead. Most of them were found lifeless. The hut was supposed to have been destroyed. I deleted the number that hired me. I never got paid, and I stopped taking private jobs in remote places. But sometimes, late at night, when I'm mixing tracks alone, the power flickers, the air turns cold, and I swear, I see two shadows with horns stretch across the wall behind me.